thank you, Walter. It's always a pleasure coming to Kennedy Center and get your introductions where you hear so much about yourself. The title of the talk is Graduate Education at Wayne State University, but an equally appropriate title for the talk could be The Graduate School at Wayne State University, with a subsequent discussion about graduate education. And I make that distinction at the beginning because I want to talk about two different things. One is the graduate school itself, which is an institutional entity within the whole university, which many of us know about, some of us think we know about, some of us would like to know more about, and its role. And then there's graduate education writ large, which involves everybody. That is a larger topic. And I wanted to use the Humanities Center as a place or a forum for a rather wide-ranging, open discussion about graduate education here and how graduate education relates to some of the things that are going around the rest of the country. So let me start with the graduate school part. I've got the PowerPoint up there for folks, and I'm going to begin by talking mainly to people who don't know who. There's a number of people in the room who know very well what the graduate school is and what it does. But I'm going to begin by talking to folks who may not be exactly sure. Okay? Briefly, the graduate school is an entity at the university level. That is, if you're a new graduate student, for example, your primary connection or relationship is to the department, right? Your department exists within a college. Your college exists within the university. The graduate school is an institutional entity, a rather small one actually, but an efficient one, that works at the university level to supervise, or supervise is too strong a word, and to work with graduate programs across the university. It's got essentially four functions, and I've got them listed up there. First function is to assure the quality and integrity of graduate programs. When we give out PhDs in particular, and I'll talk a lot about the difference between MA programs and PhD programs, the graduate school is very concerned to make sure that the Wayne State PhD means something and continues to mean something. So one of our primary responsibilities, again, is to assure the quality and integrity of the graduate programs. To wit, as part of doing that, we monitor the academic requirements for the PhD degree and certain master's degree and graduate certificates. But for the most part, what the graduate school does is it oversees and monitors student progress. Are you meeting the right requirements? Are you meeting them on time? Are certain policies being upheld? We are another layer of oversight, and I think an integral layer of oversight to what goes on at graduate programs. The person that many of you know who does this job very well and helps us out is Cindy Sokol in the graduate school. Whenever you have an issue or a problem with whether you're a student or whether you're a graduate director or a faculty member with the student meeting requirements, the person you're almost always going to be in contact with is Cindy, and she handles this very well. In addition, the graduate school administers and regulates funds that support graduate studies. Those two verbs there at the beginning are very important. Administer and regulate. We don't necessarily have our own cash that comes to us, but we administer and regulate funds that support graduate studies. Fourth function, and this is the function which I'm really here talking about today, is we disseminate information related to graduate programs and policies at the university, right? One of the things the graduate school is designed to do, and one of the things it should do, and I'd like to be doing more of, is providing a place or forum where all the disparate entities of the university can discuss graduate education. That's tricky because every program has their own unique interests, their own unique specialties, and it's very difficult to find a sort of one-size-fits-all model. But the graduate school does provide an institutional entity that allows for some common discussion, I think. That's internal. Externally, one of the other things the graduate school should be doing is letting the university know what's going on with graduate study across the country. Graduate programs across the country, the evolution of graduate study, and how and where Wayne State fits in. We live in terms of education, as many of you know, very complicated and very changing, and lots of changing times. The president, for example, just announced not too long ago one of his strategies to sort of, outcome color-coded based programs. Graduate education is going to be deeply affected by movements of educational reform, both at the state level and at the federal level. And we quite simply need to keep pace. The graduate school is one place, right, is one place where the university as a whole can work collectively, or I like to think to work collectively, to keep pace with what's going on at and around the country and frankly in the world. That's, again, one of our jobs, okay? And I hope to be able to talk a lot about that when we get to the discussion section. Okay. Other things the graduate school does. Facilitates graduate student recruitment, okay? We like to help with that in a number of different ways. We provide some funds. We want to provide support. If you've got an interesting recruitment strategy in your department, please contact us so that we can try to help in some way. Recruiting graduate students, trust me, as Walter said, I did it for 5 years in the English program here, is very, very challenging at Wayne State. Okay? We've got terrific programs. But we face some unique challenges that we need to work together to overcome to get people to come here and take advantage of it. Graduate admissions is housed within the graduate school. Many of you know, particularly those of you who have been grad directors for a while, that our alert system has been up in place and running and doing quite well. Things move much more quickly than they did. We provide administrative support to doctoral and selective masters and certificate students, and we coordinate competitive programs for graduate student fellowships and scholarships. And I can talk about those if you'd like as well. We had also administer financial support for graduate students. I think I've got to click through a slide here. I'll come back to this. The graduate school itself connects to the university in a couple different ways. The main way is through the graduate council. If you haven't served as a faculty member before on the graduate council, I encourage you to consider running when that time comes. We need different representatives, we need fresh voices, we need fresh input. The graduate education here only works via faculty engagement. That body sort of depends on engaged faculty members, very often new faculty members that came to Wayne State in part because they wanted to be part of a research institution, right, that worked with doctoral students. We need your help on graduate council. If you're interested, please consider serving on that body. The graduate council itself is organized around an executive committee. We're lucky Marcus Dixon here is in the back of the room someplace, I saw him come in, is chairing that committee this year and has last year. And there's also the Academic Standards Committee. That's a committee that meets regularly to determine and help keep our policies up to date. One of the policies that we just changed, which is a complicated one, but for example, the university used to have a 15-year time limit, time to completion limit for its PhDs. Through a number of long conversations and arguments through academic standards, that policy was changed a couple of years ago to 12 years. New programs and program review. That committee is very important, particularly these days. As I hope we talk about in the larger discussion section, one of the things that's happening with graduate education is programs are having to reinvent themselves across the country. The traditional sort of graduate model, particularly at institutions that don't fit within top tier ranks, are really having a hard time in sort of placing their students. So there's this greater emphasis on how can graduate programs that aren't in Princeton, that aren't at Harvard, make use of wonderful resources they have, the great faculty talent they have, to train students and to provide degrees in a way that will move students into the world. New programs is the committee that works within Graduate Council as the graduate school that helps programs understand what's going on. To my mind, again, this is sort of personal history bias. The key, though, to graduate programs at the university is the graduate director. Okay, the graduate director at a different department is the person, as Walter says, who does the work on the ground. Graduate directors in the room know this. It's a critical job within the department, particularly if you have a very large department, a large department with a large graduate program. The graduate director does an incredible amount of work and can really make a difference in the graduate program. When grad directors come together and they don't frequently come together enough. When grad directors come together, a lot of great work at the university gets together. You will discover when you put a group of graduate directors in a room like this, right, you will find more consensus than almost any other place in the university. While again, our programs vary in their size, they vary in what they're trying to do, they vary in their success, you discover a whole set of institutional common problems, challenges, successes. So one of the things we hope to do at the graduate school is provide a way for graduate directors to interact more frequently. Okay? The graduate school, a few more things. We do a lot of series on professional development. We've got a nice series on scholarly communications. We participate regularly in the PAD seminar series. Dean Mather, who's sitting across from me here, has established the Fellowship Writing Boot Camp, which has met with wonderful success, where we take graduate students who enroll in that and teach them how to apply for fellowships, write grants. Our premier event in terms of publicity, as many of you know, is the Graduate Exhibition. That happens in the spring each year. This is our, what I used to refer to as the poster competition. The Graduate Exhibition provides an opportunity for graduate students to present their work to faculty here at Wayne State and the larger community. It is growing leaps and bounds every year. It's a wonderful event. If you really want to know what's going on with graduate education and get yourself excited or reinvigorated about graduate education at Wayne State, please participate or come to the Graduate Exhibition. See it as a guest, come participate as a judge. We always need judges. Some grumpy humanities faculty person who decided that, even though humanities faculty don't use posters, found a way to participate by creating a more traditional oral presentation conference, which is growing in interest, and I hope to keep that moving as well. But the Graduate Exhibition Conference is a wonderful event, and for graduate students here, Graduate Exhibition Contest also provides cash prizes. We organize a new GTA orientation, and we work through a number of diversity programs. And Amika also began our postdoctoral office. Okay. Now let me go back. Okay. I don't want your questions and comments just yet. I do want them, but almost not. We've got so many people in the room who know so much about graduate education and who know so much about the university. I wanted to get to these, what I call hot button issues. And these are all issues which are critical to everyone. The graduate school, you won't be surprised, has some thoughts on these things, but no clear answers. These are incredibly complicated issues, almost every single one of them. And what we really need to hear from is faculty and or administrators or students on how to sort of deal with them. We've got our thoughts, but we need your input. But let me start with a couple general things first. Last year, or began 2 years ago, the Huron Group, as you know, was a consulting group that was brought to the university to help improve some of our facilities. Was asked to do a report on the graduate school at Wayne State. Many of you participated in committees to discuss that. One issue that came up was, should we have a graduate school or not? Or should the graduate school be combined or consolidated with the Office of Research? The Huron Group looked at that and decided a separate graduate school, a robust graduate school, is critical. And that there should be a separate graduate school. But that report is now available. The university spent some money on it. It's clear, it's succinct, it gives you lots of information you might not have known. I urge you to take a look at that. A couple other things have been going on. Dean Mather and a number of people in the room have been working on a BEST grant and other opportunities. I bring up the BEST grant not because it's done well so far with the NIH, because it connects to some larger issues going on. And this is particularly important for faculty members or graduate students in the room who are humanities or social science folks. The NIH, National Institute of Health, along with the NSF, but particularly the NIH, has been talking more routinely about reinventing graduate education so that it focuses on student outcomes. What the NIH is interested in is having universities show that graduate students are getting jobs related to their training. Those of you in the humanities know all about the job problem. It's been around for a while. There's a tendency, I know, to imagine that things are just fine in the sciences, that life is easy and grand in the sciences. That's not the case. The sciences here, but across the rest of the country, are struggling to find traditional academic placements for their students. The NIH and the NSF are responding to that by setting up a series of carrots and sticks, asking various universities to reinvent themselves, to sort of come up with different ways of doing graduate education so that graduate programs stay intact, keep doing what they're doing, smart work, but provide a number of different alternative opportunities for graduate students. Wayne and Dean Mather has been very active in pursuing those opportunities. But I bring that to your attention, again, here at the Humanities Center, because as you all know, as the sciences go, so eventually will the humanities. We have that tendency. The MLA, for those of you that know the MLA statements, for example, the Modern Language Association statements on job placement and their sort of recording of data, and the history organizations and philosophy as well, you're familiar with all the arguments here. You're familiar with the logic. The difference is, of course, the NIH has teeth, right? When the NIH says do something, they're able to make something happen because they have money at their disposal, frankly, okay? And when they ask universities to start reinventing their grad programs, people take notice because they are tying money to that reinvention of program. For example, one of the things the NIH is talking seriously about, very seriously about, is being able to track students' progress, not just through the graduate program, but to the PhD and to beyond, and not just their first postdoc, not just their first job. I'm talking 15 years beyond. Okay? This is the era of new data management that we live in, and the sooner we all start adjusting to that as faculty members, the better it's going to be. And by adjusting, I don't mean to be complicit. This is complicated. When I talk about data management from a faculty perspective, that's a serious sort of hard talk everyone needs to have. Data can be great, data can be dangerous, okay? But it's going on. Anyways, you see there nationwide changes to graduate education, again with this emphasis on outcomes. I'm assuming most of you tuned into what the president had to say about this. I would also encourage folks, if you want to know what's going to happen to the universities, and it's already happening of course, but if you want to know what's happening to the universities and what's going to happen to graduate education, tune in a bit to K through 12 school reform in this country, okay? If you've got a kid in the public schools, or if you were a teacher or a partner as a teacher, and you want to know what's in your future, look at K through 12 education reform. Because all those arguments, all that logic, all that political pressure is now moving in the direction of the university. It is inevitable. On that, data management here and elsewhere. Again, data is critical now. We live in that world. The graduate school, one of the things talked about in the Huron report is that we need a different form of data management. The graduate school is working now with CIT to develop a program that will help us collect information on graduate students, their progress, so that when we sit down to have discussions about allocation of resources or what to do with the program, we will have at least some data to discuss. We have a tendency, I think, to rely too much on strong rhetorical outbursts to sort of make decisions. It would be nice to have data. That said, trust me, as an English professor, my stock in trade is rhetorical outbursts. I don't have a whole lot else to offer, and I don't mean to sort of diminish rhetorical outbursts. In this sort of hyper-politicized, mediatized world, it works, you know. The folks that sort of master that are, to my mind, sort of winning. And you ignore that, or you at your own peril. But again, data management is this double-edged sword. As a realist, as a pragmatist, when you sit in an administrative role, you've got to deal with data management issue. As a faculty member, however, particularly as a faculty member in the humanities, I would be remiss if I didn't say I'm very, very skeptical, and I and I look towards data collection with some trepidation. Again, data management can be used in all sorts of different ways. That's why it's critical, and this is the critical piece, that faculty be more attuned and greater involved with data collection and data management and how it's used in various institutional arguments. Okay? But it's coming. A couple another hot button issue, MA enrollment challenges. Generally speaking, as you all know, the whole university has some enrollment challenges in front of us for a number of different reasons. At the graduate school, our PhD programs are pretty much okay. Things seem to be sort of fairly level. We have, unfortunately, however, noticed a drop in MA enrollments. There's a number of different reasons for that. For example, changes at the state education level in terms of teacher certification and teacher requirements has affected a number of people coming back at the MA level. From the graduate school's perspective, this is especially challenging, again, because the graduate school, and this takes me back to my sort of first slide, is the graduate school's business, it traffics primarily, sort of rightly or wrongly, it traffics primarily in PhD programs. MA programs are left by and large to the colleges. One thing, not entirely, but by and large to the colleges. One thing we would like is sort of greater communication about issues like MA enrollment. What are the relationships between MA and PhD programs? How can we work together on that sort of thing? And let me just sort of finish here with I've got 2 plugs at the end, and then I'm going to let people ask questions, talk. We've got a lot of representatives here from the graduate school, graduate committees. Please chime in. We're really here because we want to have an open, frank discussion, or as open and frank discussion as possible about these issues. But I want to end with 2 plugs. One of the things I hope to do in the spring is set up a Wayne State Humanities and Social Science Conference on graduate education. I was hoping to do that in the fall. A number of things came up that made me hesitate about trying to pull it off in the fall. But Walter was very gracious to offer Walter's always gracious, right? To offer Humanities Center support on this. I would like, for example, to bring back a number of our graduates here who have found traditional tenure track placements. We have a number that are quite extraordinary, and I'd like to bring them back and talk. I would also like to bring back a number of our graduates that have found extraordinary alternative academic placement, and bring in a few speakers nationally who know a lot more about alternative academic placement than we do. Alternative academic placement is tricky. Believe me, I mean, if you're in the humanities and you're here at Wayne State, a good research university, chances are you went from 18 to 22 right into graduate school, you competed hard in a very difficult environment, and you've been in a very competitive, research-intensive environment your whole life. That is, so when I come to you and you say, okay, well, teach me what else I can do with the PhD. Sometimes it's your very best and most productive faculty members that go, I don't know. Why? Because I've been doing one thing all my life. Okay, but that is changing. That is changing. There's sort of a greater awareness and sort of greater, let me call this, intense activity around alternative academic placements. And I want to have that discussion. And then the third sort of vision there would be a panel at the end where different faculty members sort of could discuss these things writ large. But that's for the spring, and that's a separate plug. Okay. But let me stop chatting there. There's a lot of people in the room who know a lot of things I don't. Again, we'd like to hear from you. Questions, comments, arguments, that sort of thing. Thanks.
Actually, can I just follow up on your last point as a plug for our department? Because we have a former student coming on October 11th. And in addition to giving a seminar in the department, then we were going to have a round table.
Right.
And this person has a career in the FDA, and they're actually going to talk about how to go about getting a career in government based on their experience. So this will be open to everyone. We can extend it. It'll be October 11th. it'll probably start around 11:30, 12 o'clock. I can give you more details.
Yeah, please send us the stuff. The graduate school can certainly help disseminate that information. One of the things we're trying to do more regularly is to get, at least within our website, but I'd like to find a better way to do, the website placements are nice and sort of things like this. But we need to sort of communicate within the university itself and to the larger community what's happening with our PhD students. We have remarkable success stories, We very often there's a tendency to sort of hang our heads. We have remarkable success stories at traditional academic jobs and in non-academic ones as well. But if you read the papers, and if you sit in at legislative committee meetings, and so you would never know that. You would never know that, and that's something the graduate school would like to try to help more with.
I have a question behind you.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Robert Westman, I'm a graduate student in the sociology department. I have a graduate degree from urban planning and studies department as well. But my question is, I came out of a business environment, all right? And you talk about recruiting, you said generally the standard students is 18 to 22, they spend their life in graduate school.
That's the faculty.
Okay. Well, what about the students who come into the graduate or decide to get a graduate degree after working a career, a successful career per se, in a totally different environment? How does that particular student get the type of support system that he or she could need in accomplishing her goals?
That's a great question. Do you mind if I turn my back on you? Just so sort of folks in here. This is a great question. I mean, times have changed. Wayne State, again, to sort of be frank, for a number of years, and this is how a number of faculty members for a number of years understood graduate education at Wayne State, was a place where you could come to get your PhD when you were done with your career or in retirement for your cultural personal edification. This used to be called a dilettante sort of degree. And a lot of faculty, frankly, were quite comfortable with that model, in part because there was an economy that supported and sustained retired folks, doctors, lawyers, sort of coming back. We're still living in that world. We haven't adjusted to the fact that, number one, that economy no longer lasts, and what we have is people coming back, not coming back to school because they're in retirement looking for something to do. It's because they're remaking their career, right? That's what I'm talking. And again, that's not just a Wayne State issue. That is a national graduate education issue. How to reinvent graduate programs so that it can accommodate those students. Graduate programs are still, by and large, set up primarily, and I don't mean to dismiss this sort of primary purpose, but to train people of a certain age to get traditional academic jobs like their faculty members. Problem is, we don't have, that's not totally representative of our student population. And number two, those traditional academic jobs aren't there. And again, every faculty member knows this. And again, the humanities, there might be this disconnect between, well, we know it's not there in the humanities, but the sciences are fine. But programs, this is when I talk about reinventing programs, whether programs do this within their own department, whether they work in an interdisciplinary way to sort of create programs that match with what jobs are available and what people are looking for, that's critical. And that's actually, again, one of the things that the NIH is doing to sort of pick an organization, with lots of money, less money than they had, but money to incentivize programs to sort of work and change what they do to match up with what's really on the outside. And so the frank answer to your question is, how do you do that? That's what we're talking about here. We need better answers to a program like that.
Can I just as a grad director to also address that, one of the things I stress within our program is that part of the onus is on the student. They must speak up to us and to their dissertation advisors in a PhD program or their mentors in a master's program to illuminate to us what their particular goals are, either academic or career-wise, because the programs will run sort of in knee-jerk mode, but should hopefully be creative enough to help people accomplish their goals. We're really here to help you accomplish your goals, not me accomplish my goals, at least not in the sense of graduate education.
Right, so I'll just chime in also. One of the things that we are developing, and Professor Feig has been very modest about his own contributions to this, we are developing what's called the annual review form and an individual development plan. So what that is going to do is to have each student work with the dissertation advisor and the dissertation committee to come up with their plans. Not everybody is interested in academic careers, not everybody is interested in industry. So you have to individualize those plans, and we all understand that you are an individual, you have to take care of your career and your goals. We are here to provide the support, and we are building programs in recognition of that. And we would love to have people like you, provide comments, feedback, but those individual plans will be very important for you to articulate exactly what Professor Feig just said. And I do want to, I'm sure all of you know Provost Winters here, the Queen of Humanities.
Congratulations.
A new title.
Given I'm a linguist, that's interesting.
Close enough for me?
But who has been extremely supportive in moving all these projects forward. So I think all of us together as a team, I see several graduate directors who have been part of this conversation, who've helped us put this together. But now we need the student voice to help us figure out what we're doing. I mean, I've got my PhD many, many, many moons ago. And I cannot relate to what a student right now needs as much as you can tell me what you need. So we are looking for that from students, from faculty, and our conduit, the graduate directors as well. So we really want that input.
And I would add a very quick comment on times have changed. My father got his PhD when he was 52. But at the time, this was remarkable. And I don't know, I was in high school when he got it. I do not remember anything in the form of support, even terribly sympathetic grad advisors, because he was an outlier, so far an outlier that they didn't know what to do with him. He got the same feedback on his dissertation as everyone else, but nothing else. Times really have changed, and I think the biggest part of the change now is that it's going from grad advisor as parent to real interaction, particularly with people who are grown up, have been out of school, and have a pretty clear idea of why they're here. So,
And what they want to get.
Hi, I'm Bahar Brown. I'm the grad director in sociology. About a third of our students, because equally, a third of our students go into research, a third of our students go into community colleges after they finish. A third of them end up in either regional or local arts or teaching colleges. And then about a third of our PhD students end up in industry. And that's been the case for a while now. So my question is, has there been any discussion in the graduate school about creating partnerships with corporations or with nonprofit organizations or hospital systems so that students can receive training while they're in the PhD program and possibly receive credit while they're in the PhD program? Because your description of the typical faculty destiny, I have no experience at all outside of academia. So that's my question.
Okay, Carly, you could, take that relationship.
Yes, so
We have an answer.
we do have an answer. Actually, one of the things that Professor Jackson had talked about, the BEST grant, which is the second bullet point up there. This is, the acronym is for Broadening Experience in Scientific Training. And even though it says scientific training, at Wayne State, when we responded to this proposal for applications, we used it in the broadest terms of doctoral training. So our application is actually meant to address exactly what you just said. The proposal is to offer all these programs, services, if you may, to students who want to get careers outside of academia. I don't like to use the word alternate because it's sort of like a stepchild. I use the word multiple careers because I think the whole array should be available. And part of this grant application is actually exactly what you said. We are partnering with community colleges We have a very strong link with Lawrence Tech at the moment. We are going to be expanding that to others as well. We have healthcare administration, we have industry, we have law. Several of the NGOs have partnered with us. Detroit Medical Center, they have 7 hospitals here, so there will be a huge number of opportunities. In fact, the last count that we did, we have about 500 or so internship opportunities that will be opening up. So it is going to be huge. We should be hearing about the status of our application any day now. We have been told to be on the watch, so we are waiting. Hopefully we'll be getting it. It's not a huge amount of money, but it will be enough to get the infrastructure going. And the one good thing that also happened recently is the appointment of President Wilson here. His most recent appointment, as you know, was at the NIH. And he was actually co-chair of this common fund, which developed these programs the best. And a new one coming up, which is called BUILD, and that will be partnering with undergraduate institutions. So he's very much behind it, and we're already in conversation about expanding those. So I think this is a good time for graduate education to broaden its horizons beyond just that traditional training.
Robert?
On the question of multiple careers, does the graduate school have relationships with the Office of Career Services and with alumni networks? Because I think in traditional academic employment, the professor you described is very well suited in helping a student find a place in the academic world which we inhabit. But in the non-academic world, you really need alumni who work in those places to be able to assist students with informational interviews and so forth, and also a vibrant career services network, perhaps connected with the Alumni Association, to point students towards the careers that our students have actually attained.
Yeah. We need to do better. Part of the best grant is to set up a sort of career services office or sort of model within the graduate school to do just that. But again, it is back to Professor Brown's. But this is something that we need to be continually recreating. We don't have enough connections right now across disciplines. Some are fun, some are great, right? But across disciplines, partly because those connections have never historically been there. We don't think in those terms. We sort of haven't adjusted fast enough to do this. But every time you look at, again, what should get people's attention, frankly, is when the President of the United States comes out and talks about universities and outcomes, right? When you start looking at PhD programs and sort of, okay, what are the outcomes? You want to be able to show the outcomes. I don't mean to sort of buy in completely to a metrics game where you're always sort of chasing a system which is designed to undermine you in some way. But we have these wonderful resources, PhD programs. They're great. They draw faculty, but we need to sort of build within them and use them in a different way.
Just a very quick follow-up on it. It's not just the graduate school when it comes to connections and possible internships. Some of you may have met Vice President Ned Stabler, who does economic development, mostly in the Detroit region, in fact, a lot of it right here in Midtown. And he's been working on developing internships for undergrads and grads. I think if you went to his website, you would find connections as well. And he comes to Council of Deans once in a while, and he and Ambika are therefore in connection with each other about possibilities.
Right, so there are several things we are doing. One is working with Vice President Stabler. In fact, part of our grant, we actually have commitment from him as well. We're also working now with the Office of Teaching and Learning to develop these career services. But I think the main thing again is the graduate school can track the alumni all at once, but I think it has to be faculty. You and grad directors, you're the ones who are interacting with the students every day. So the graduate school is still, one step removed. So I would really urge everybody to pitch in and help with that. These are students you know better than we know. So it would be best if it comes from you also. And of course, we'll provide the help that we can. And alumni office is also working on it. But I really think faculty and graduate directors should be
So Robert, we've been working in the chemistry department to do 15-year censuses since census. A 15-year post-graduation census.
No classes.
And so we've been setting up procedures to do that. We're happy to share those procedures and help implement them in other departments, because keeping track of our alumni is essential, not only for just understanding our outcomes and asking are we doing the right things in graduate education, but also for the networking of our new students. We bring them back for talks on campus, as we're hearing from things like the FDA. Having these kinds of connections is really wonderful for the students, and the current students love when we bring back these alumni. But we have to keep in touch with them in order to do that.
Just to follow up on that, Steve Chrismelis, anthropology. One of the things that I've found is a real challenge is that some of our students come in and they've heard these things. Oh, Wayne State, oh, you're never going to get a job. Oh, Wayne State, oh, community college is your fate. Or, and this is a real problem, particularly because it's not true. And to whatever extent, these things can become self-fulfilling. To whatever extent graduate students internalize in themselves the idea that I've come here and I've settled or something. And so part of what we can do as graduate directors and as deans is to really showcase what actually has happened to our students, and not just in a sort of the anecdata kind of way. Oh, we had one student once upon a time who did a great thing. That doesn't work, but in a broader way.
I can agree more. We need bodies on the university. So this is what is happening. Here are literally the outcomes, right? And there are a number of sort of really wonderful sort of untold stories. And the way that the sort of plateau, sort of anecdote here. I still remember my first job, Walter, was at the University of Connecticut. At my first faculty cocktail party, a faculty member looked at me and said, oh, you have your PhD from Loyola University of Chicago. That's not a university one traditionally associates with PhD granting. So yeah, you have to sort of work within still that outdated logic, right, of the system. But I think the best way to do is to get those people right here.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wanted to respond to the MA enrollment challenges, because I'm Janice Green from the College of Education, and we have had a shift in our state requirements, and students no longer need a master's to advance career-wise in education. But we know that many of our graduates do not work in the field of education, and we clearly promote graduate education as it relates to a master's and a doctoral level. We also have the Ed Specialist Certificate, which we have our students. But I want to talk about the retention of MA students, because I think that is something that we go from bachelor's and we really wrap our arms around the undergraduate students, and then we go for the doctoral level students and we really wrap our arms around that population. It's the master's level students that I believe that really fall between the cracks, because they're self-driven, and the support systems are not as pushed forward with them. In the College of Ed, we do not have many graduate assistants. We know that when our graduates graduate, they need practical experiences, and that's what a graduate assistantship will allow for them. So I just think that we need to focus more on, what is it that not only admits, but retains and graduates those students at that master's level, because that's a population that I do think that we need to spend some time on.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the hardest things I heard from someone I know and trust, who said that as an MA student here very often, you don't feel like you're a graduate student.
Yeah, you don't.
And that, when I hear that,
Yeah.
Again, from a reliable source, that's telling Peter.
Yeah, well, let me just say, one of the things that we are doing within the college, we're looking at learning communities. Trying to, those students who connect to a university have a greater chance of graduating, if they are connected with a faculty, with services, with resources. So we're trying to wrap our arms around those students that are in that master's level by connecting them not only with other students other than just going to class, but in terms of social, in terms of other activities, in addition to their faculty, so that we can hopefully retain and graduate them. at a higher rate?
So we do actually have a plan which has been presented to the provost and the council of deans to address exactly all those master's level concerns. As you all know, the graduate school doesn't really have jurisdiction as such over master's programs. So we are trying to provide some central things, and the plan is being discussed.
Yeah, for the institutional entity of the graduate school, it's very, very difficult to get engaged in MA level because we just don't deal with it at the same level we do with PhD programs. Sorry, Pete.
You know, a lot of students want to do master's, do it for career advancement, and some of them probably can't quit their job to do that. So some talk in the graduate school about creating online master's programs, because that's probably like the most, I wouldn't say easy, but easier than a bachelor's or a PhD. A PhD program is impossible to do online. Like a bachelor's is almost impossible. Master's is actually the one that where you could actually, especially when it comes to professional type things,
See, we've been asking
very useful.
We
Our
are
department
actually,
has been asked to do that.
yeah, so we are working with several departments to create those. And if anybody has ideas on developing one, please do talk to us. Professor Jackson actually chairs the new proposals committee, and I've charged him and the committee to work with faculty and grad directors to do that. Sorry, I don't need to take over this answer, but.
No. Yeah, come to us with ideas, we will do what we can. MAs though, again, this is an institutional conversation we need to have because, as you know full well, you know, again, MAs get housed and sort of organized within colleges. The graduate school, we're in this PhD mode.
I mean, we're actually working on.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes.
No, we have the same concerns.
Yeah, and I think, speaking from my experience in our department and talking to others in class, the life sciences, some input would be appreciated in terms of the distinctions between an MA, MS by dissertation, MS by credit, and because this seems to be vague, and faculty and departments sort of amongst themselves have sort of made a hierarchy. Well, you know, this one is a low rung, this one higher, this one I'm going to invest more time. So I think that's where I'm having issues with standards.
When I took over the graduate program in English, I spent almost all my time on the PhD program. To the not the exclusion, but well, frankly to the exclusion of the MA program. I focus on that. I've come not completely 180 degrees on that issue, but it's a real concern. The MA traditionally in lots of disciplines is the off ramp, right? Or you know, sort of the stepchild. That needs to be fully re-examined at sort of all levels, I think. But it's a cultural, it's a deep sort of cultural issue. Yeah.
Another question about online degrees. I appreciate what Janet said about the current state of play in Michigan with regard to master's degrees for teachers. Do you know whether that is the case regionally or beyond the region? Because if you had an online master's degree, of course you wouldn't be restricted to Michigan students.
In terms of, well, Indiana has gotten hammered. You know, Florida, I mean, regionally, I'm trying to think, Wisconsin is about to be hammered even more. I mean, it's already been hammered and is about to get hammered again. Illinois
Illinois is hammered every year.
Illinois is hammered every year. It's that Illinois tends to be more at the city by city rather than sort of at the state level.
No, they have the Board of Higher Ed.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I'm talking about the online stuff with kids.
Oh,
But yeah.
that, last I looked, they were trying to coordinate that also.
They are
Yeah.
uncoordinated.
In terms of this moving away from thinking that a master's degree is helpful for faculty, for teachers, K through 12, North Carolina is the most recent one I've read about, where they just cut out any incentive to get a master's.
What I might offer to the conversation, though, is that we might want to start thinking more about competencies than degrees in some of these discussions. You know, why are you getting a master's?
Yeah.
Presumably is because there's a skill you need to do your job better in some fashion. And if we frame, especially online programs, in terms of what you are getting as an outcome from the degree, it's going to be a more saleable artifact.
That's
with the gainful employment stuff that they're talking about, that's definitely gonna go beyond the certificates, and it's gonna be the master's degrees too. But the one thing I want to say with online programs in the graduate school, if you have a current graduate program, a master's degree that you would like to turn into an online program, you need to get with educational outreach. An online MBA was just introduced, and the MBA already existed, so that didn't really need to come to the graduate school at all. That went to a Montez's group, and they coordinated it all. We have an online MBA.
Yeah, you just mentioned MBA. I was thinking that there are fields whose terminal degree is the master's degree, like in the arts, the MFA, or in art therapy. It's both the entry degree and the terminal degree.
Yeah, again, I mean, there is that sort of traditional format and structure, but even that, I would argue we need to be attuned to these enormous external pressures that are gonna be brought to bear on the university. They've already been brought to bear on K through 12. The Gates money, the Walton funding, the Brood money, that is all coming to a department near you. And in some ways, not to simplify this, but it's gonna be, do you figure out a way to sort of work within that logic? Do you resist it? Do you adjust to it? But it's there. There's gonna be enormous pressure from the state, for example, to turn our programs over into competency programs. Because you take the same political logic, which says, if a teacher doesn't need an MA, why do you need this program at the university for this money?
And we in the College of Education, we are clearly not telling our students that, because there is life beyond that particular job right there. And so we do not want them to stop there. We want them to go for the master's and the doctorate degree.
Scott?
I have a really naive question. I'm Scott Richland in English. Which is what forms of it, I mean, because there's language of outcomes, but at the K through 12 and often also at the higher education level that Obama's been talking about, there's also been talk of assessment. And I'm wondering whether the only logic of quantification here for outcomes is job placements, or whether there are other forms of assessment that are sort of floating around the space and thinking about graduate education.
What I've seen, frankly, is it's all about job placement. It's connecting the line between educational institution as job trainer to job placement. Because again, we need to do a better job about explaining what education is, what our institutions of learning do, what graduate education can be and what it does. To my mind, again, sort of lay my political cards on the table, we're losing a political fight.
The drive for the 15-year assessment, however, isn't just about job placement, it's about job success. And so that they want to go beyond just getting that first job, but showing that you are being productive with what you had. And so that's the reason for this longitudinal tracking.
And again, what Andrew's referring to there is the new NIH requirements, which I think every other, it's going to permeate all sort of disciplines and sort of eventually. Tricia?
I just have a question about the master's degree level programs, and if there is consideration. I mean, to me, it's still a graduate degree, so I have a certain expectation of quality of performance of work at that level. But there is also a move afoot between distinguishing that with an MA that is a quote, a professional degree. And if there's going to be a difference in degree granting between an MA that is, I view as a scholarly degree, an academic degree, versus professional MA programs.
Faculty has to do that work, frankly. And otherwise, that will be assigned to us. It will be literally handed to us what the degree means. I mean, one of the most disturbing media reports you see is when we need more college graduates. Okay, it sort of completely effaces the integrity of the degree. And again, that same logic will be, by extension, we don't think of it as sort of possible, but that will be applied to graduate education. What's the MA, what's the PhD, et cetera. So there isn't much room in the larger political discussion as opposed to the more well-funded sort of organized sort of system disciplines for, integrity of the degree, meaningfulness.
But we do need to address the differences between the different master's level programs, definitely. Because they're catering to different populations. So.
Right,
Yeah.
so how do you suggest doing that? Would there be then a difference in the degree that's granted?
Well,
I'm not sure how to answer your question right now, and I think it needs a broader conversation with the graduate directors and the faculty involved.
question close there.
Hi, is there another librarian here?
Hi.
Yeah, okay. I'm in the liaison for less commonly taught languages, which is why I kind of dropped in here. My name's Karen Liston, and I don't speak for the whole libraries, but when we have relationships with graduate students, they tend to focus on a lot of things. Information literacy, as basic as we feel like it is an assessment that's extremely important. And I have to say, when it's based on a personal relationship with most of these students, we need feeders into that. It's great for the student, especially returning students, who think to themselves, oh, maybe I could talk to a librarian. The problem is a lot of them don't. And we're here, and we can really lead them in any kind of avenues and support them in a variety of ways, with technologies, with finding research, with research strategies, et cetera. So I just want to kind of, bring that out. We're here on campus. In my belief, we're underutilized, but half my colleagues would kill me. So, just a reminder.
Thank you.
I just kind of wanted to build off of what was mentioned earlier. I'm a graduate student in the library science program right now, and my background is in the fine arts. So I came into a graduate program not understanding academia at all. And I'm definitely a minority, but I'm not alone, and I'm wondering, we've discussed a lot of things, but what is academia for people who come into this not really understanding what it is?
Professor Whitman, there's your cue.
I was responding to an I can't believe that happened at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. No, sorry. That is, graduate orientation and graduate training, those big conceptual issues are so daunting and so difficult. And even in sort of GT orientations and things like this, departments and the graduate school need to sort of be explaining earlier on, this is how it all works right now. Here are the challenges, here's the culture you've got to immerse yourself in. When I go to the different departments and give my GTA orientation talk, I always finish with the fact the difference between undergrad and graduate school is you need to immerse yourself in that world to learn it. And frankly, and this is why I'm teasing Professor Whitman here, this isn't just an issue for graduate students, it's an issue for assistant professors, it's an issue for associate professors, and Provost Winters can probably give a longer list of.
Well, let me give some hope and say, no, I go. Hush.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just one quick statement, which is that very early on, Ken mentioned the PAD seminars, which is shared Office of Research and us, and often the grad school.
Right.
We all do these together. We are talking about developing a set just for grad students. And that PAD stands for Professional and Academic Development. So I think that you've just given me an idea for one that probably might well be done every fall, which is, what does it mean to be a grad student?
Right.
Yeah, well,
Be
yeah.
careful because you might be on it, asking hard
Yes,
questions.
and then I recruit. Go ahead.
But it's no surprise that you don't know it, that other students, because lots of disciplines, the whole business was cloaked in all sorts of mysteries for all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah.
So this is a short way of saying it's not you. It takes a while to sort of sift through how it works.
Ken was also teasing me because we were talking just before this meeting about writing a monograph explaining all of this.
You said manual.
Manners. One of the other things, though, that I find is that with, particularly with graduate students, but I think it also trickles down to undergraduates, is that faculty do a lot of complaining. And we have, as far as I'm concerned, the absolute best job. Maybe Supreme Court Justice would be fun. But other than that, we have a fantastic job. We can keep working without injuring ourselves. Well, we could get injured, but we don't have to carry cinder blocks upstairs. If you can handle independently organizing your time, I can't think of a better job than being a college professor, a teacher, a university professor. And a lot of time that doesn't come through to undergraduates or our graduate students because we just talk about the fact that, oh, I have another prep. Oh, I need to get a grant. It's getting so hard to get grants now. And of course, they see us taking our stuff home evenings and weekends. And because we work, most of us, all the time. And what's really interesting is we like that. We take that home because that's why we were doing this in the first place. And I don't know, we just need to do a better job at like being happy with the fact that we are here. And I think that will trickle down.
Well, celebrating the life of the university now more than ever is critical.
Yeah.
We don't do that enough. But one of the reasons you don't know about the profession is because it is. Lots of people want those jobs. They're good jobs. Doesn't mean they're cozy jobs at all. It's constant job, but it's a wonderful life. It's
24/7.
You know, it really is. Not easy. Not sitting around eating grapes like some of the legislature would have you believe. But most people that find their way to a certain point love it.